I've never heard such a quiet, orderly group. So hopefully, now that we're kind of warmed up, people will be not feeling so obliged to be so formal. Yeah, there you go. So let me see if I can get this right. Bahut? Dhanyavad? Oh, is that right? Okay. And I want to welcome you to the first of many Obama Foundation town halls that we're going to be planning around the world. Hello to everybody who is watching on obama.org. It is wonderful to be back in India and back in Delhi. Almost 3 years ago, I had the tremendous honor of being the first American president to join for Republic Day. I will say my most vivid memory was those acrobats on the motorcycles. Those guys were amazing. A little over 7 years ago, my first stop on a visit to Asia was here, and I had the privilege to address your parliament. In 2009, I recognized India at the White House with my first state dinner, and we danced some Bhangra. And, we have had Diwali celebrations in the White House every year that I was there. And all of this is because, as I said in a speech that I gave this morning, India and the United States have so much in common. The U.S. is home, of course, to millions of Indian Americans, and their proud heritage is, at the same time, combined with an incredible contribution that they make in every field in the United States. Both of our countries are hugely diverse, and we've got different languages and different backgrounds and different ethnicities and different faiths. But what we also have in common is a set of values that we believe in deeply. And I believe that the partnership between the world's oldest democracy and the world's largest democracy could be a defining partnership of the 21st century. Now, I also believe that charting the course for that better future is going to depend on all of you. It's going to depend on young people. There are all sorts of things that I care about, all sorts of specific issues that I'm going to continue to work on, and I plan to lend my voice to focus the rest of my career on. I'll be out there advocating on behalf of doing something about climate change and doing something about inequality and making sure that women are getting the same opportunities as men and fighting against, there you go, and fighting against the forces of discrimination and tribalism and racism. But the single most important thing that I want to focus on is lifting up and identifying and working with and training the next generation of leadership. Not just in the United States, but all around the world. And that's really the central goal of our foundation. It's going to be based in Chicago, my hometown, but we want to have projects, programs, partnerships, and digital networks everywhere. And I'm not just lending my name to the foundation, I'm going to be an active part of it. This year I've already met with young people like yourselves in Germany, in Indonesia, in Brazil, and then we had our first ever Obama Foundation Summit in Chicago. And I don't want to speak too long because I want to spend most of our time on questions, and Anshul is going to help to moderate it. But I did want to mention the reason I thought it was so important to do something in India. You've got the largest population of young people in the world, and that's a lot, so we might as well start big. We've already identified some remarkable young leaders who are doing extraordinary things here in India. Authors, athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, civic leaders from all across the country. We've got activists who are working on everything from education to gender equality to climate change. A couple of young leaders were recently with us in Chicago, and I just want to acknowledge them. Trisha Shetty started, where is she? There she is. Did you have fun in Chicago? Oh, see there. I didn't call on her to say that, but thank you. But Tricia started an organization called She Says, aimed at educating and empowering men and women to take action against sexual abuse. Also joining us in Chicago was Sanchana Krishnan, who works with communities to destigmatize mental health issues through the power of personal storytelling. Where's is? There you are. There you are. And here in India, we've got young leaders like Kuldeep Dantewadia, who's building. Where's Kuldeep? There he is. He's building this country's first, what he calls, Solve Squad, of 17,500 young people so far who are driving change at the local level all across India. So the point is that these young people are already showing the power that anybody has if they take the initiative and have the courage, as Anshul said, to drive change, to make a difference. And there have never been more powerful, more accessible tools for each of you to make a difference than there are today. And in fact, I would argue, and I mentioned this in my speech earlier this morning, there's never been a better time to be a young person. I mean, it's always good being young, by the way. But if you think about it, if you had to choose a moment in history in which you could be born, and you didn't know ahead of time who you were going to be, you didn't know what your status would be, you didn't know whether you were going to be male, female, Indian, or American, you didn't know whether you were going to be gay, straight, you didn't know whether you were going to be rich or poor, what caste you might be a member of, what religion. So you're just a human, and you had to choose when to be born. You choose now. Because as troubled as our politics are, as difficult as the world can seem when you're watching the newscasts, the fact is that over the past 100 years, we've come from a world where only a small fraction of women could vote to a world where almost every woman can. Since 1950, the global average life expectancy has grown by more than 20 years. Since 1990, I mean, that's not that long ago. I was in law school in 1990. We've cut extreme poverty and childhood mortality in half. Much of that, by the way, in India and China. Since 2000, we've evolved from a world without marriage equality to one in which it's a reality in more than 24 countries. The fact is, the world has never been healthier, it has never been wealthier, and despite terrible conflicts that are still taking place around the world, and remarkable cruelty and suffering, the world is actually less violent and more tolerant than it's ever been. Fewer people are dying young, more people are living not only longer but better, more girls are attending school, more adults can read, more children have the vaccines that they need. And the point is that none of this happened just because of luck. It happened because people chose to make it happen. And many of those people, working over the course of many years, started without power or wealth or title. And many of them were extraordinarily young, just like you. I always have to remind people that when you think of somebody like Dr. Martin Luther King, who did so much in our country, he was 24, 25 years old when he began as an activist in Montgomery, Alabama, to try to desegregate the South. And he started in small steps, and it was only a few years later where he won the Nobel Prize and would help to revolutionize America. But it wasn't just Dr. King, it was all these young people around him who were just like us. You know, they had their flaws, they had their problems, they had their doubts, but despite all those imperfections, they pressed forward anyway, often far from the limelight, with determination and with faith in the future because they believe that their efforts would matter and that they would be part of this upward trajectory in our human story. So that's the legacy that is available to you should you choose to grab it. That should inspire each of you to keep pushing for progress in whatever field you're in and whatever communities that you live in, knowing that your efforts matter. And I hope that all of you stay engaged after this session and are prepared to work with each other and work with us, and let other young leaders know about how we can continue to build up a community of change around the world. And that way, next time I come back to India, you guys will be here waiting for me, and you can tell me all the amazing progress that you've already made. All right? Okay. So enough talk. We're going to get Anshu back out here.